Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be going over field engineering, or the superintendent track, or the field engineering track, mainly geared towards the construction industry and in the semiconductor industry. So it's kind of hard to explain, but I'm going to be going over field engineering, and just for reference, I am in the semiconductor industry, so maybe these roles kind of shift when you go out into like general construction, like for airports and other commercial buildings. So right here we have the project roles, okay? So there's like 3 tracks you can kind of go into, and this is just what I've noticed being in the construction and the tech industry, is you can either be a project engineer, so this would be under a GC, so that'd be under like J.E. Dunn, Skanska, Hoffman. These are the kind of roles you'll find within operations. So operations means like you're getting the actual work done. You're not like overhead or assisting in some other way. This is like, you know, you're actually running the project. So the first one we have is a project engineer. Now their role is kind of interesting. It's facilitating the project, and they become project managers eventually. Field engineers are the second project role you can go into, and those are really like boots on the ground, like you're walking every day, you're looking at what work is happening and all that. And then there's estimating engineer. So I've been in this role as well, and this one is mainly making sure, doing all the pre-construction, all that work to make sure that when you do the actual construction, it turns out well. So I put a girl with a bunch of computer screens because that's like what I do. So right now I'm kind of flexing in like project engineering and estimating. So what I did is I did 2 weeks under a project manager, so kind of a level up of a project engineer. And then I did 2 weeks out in the field commercial work, and then I did 2 weeks under a superintendent, which is a more advanced field engineer. And then obviously I'm in estimating, so plenty of experience with that role. So I kind of just want to go into field engineering. I'll do a separate video on the other ones as well, but this is the latest one I went through. So field engineering. Now you can... So this is specific to my company, but I think it's kind of across the board. The roles, the numbers might change, but you start off as like an FE1 or an FE, or at some companies you start off as like FE2 and it's reversed or whatever. But anyway, FE1's like the lowest, sounds mean, and then FE2, and then you hit senior FE. Once you hit senior, then you get into superintendent 1, superintendent 2, and then senior superintendent. I put the logistics here because they're more focused on like logistics at this point. They're just assisting the superintendents with whatever they need. As you jump into superintendents, you start to ask more questions. You start to ask more like hard questions. The superintendent 2, you get like this big jade and blue truck when you hit superintendent 2, at least what I've heard. So I think that's kind of cool. So I have some pictures over here. Now for a typical project, you're gonna have a project manager, a superintendent, and project engineer. I use the same photos and I switched the roles, but you know what I'm saying. So the superintendent, it's gonna be a more advanced field engineer. Project managers, more advanced project engineer. And then you usually have like a senior PE or PE2 working on the job as well. So we're just gonna look at the superintendent's role. So maybe wondering, what do these field engineers or superintendents do? So in the beginning, when you're like field engineer 1 and 2, you're just trying to learn as much as possible, because these superintendents have like 13, 14, sometimes even like 20 years of experience, maybe even 40 if you're like super old. So you're just trying to get your knowledge to where it needs to be. Your basic job is to manage the trades. So let's say on the schedule, it's like, we're going to be putting in this roofing. Then you get your ass up to that roof and you look and make sure they're doing it right, you know, and like make sure they're on time, make sure you're meeting schedule, because the superintendents own the schedule. So a superintendent and a project manager will work together and they'll create the schedule along with a scheduler. And then, but it's the superintendent, at the end of the day, they own that schedule. They made the schedule, that's their job. Logistics, they're gonna ask like, how are we gonna get the duct on the roof? What type of crane are we gonna use? Who do we need to let know that we're gonna be parking this crane in the middle of the road? Sequencing of the work. Do we need to install a good chunk of it and then switch it over and then demo it out? Or can we just demo it out beforehand? Or does that affect a system? So it's like all these really hard questions that like somebody needs to answer. And that's all logistics and scheduling and sequencing of the work, and that's all the superintendent. Now they're also in charge of safety. They're walking a lot. Like when I was following them, I was like, oh my gosh, so much walking. Like every day they're walking. They're gonna go visit the job every day. Project managers don't really go out in the field very often, so in the field is what they call it. So I have some pictures of when I did some walking. So this is me following somebody who's gonna do a concrete pour, and then here's some tank, and you know, here's some like rebar sticking out of the concrete. And this is a field engineer, a senior field engineer, Kelsey. And so she's like showing me how you can tell if a wall is ready for finish. You just like wipe your hand on it, you're like, it's white, it's ready to be coated. Some ceiling stuff, look, they're putting in some like wiring in the ground, you know, fan stuff, meetings. You can kind of see what they're wearing, you know, nothing fancy. Looking in one of these, you know, this is a flexible connection. So these are the types of stuff that you will see in the field. So hope you got a nice little glimpse of what it's like. So I guess we'll stay here. Well, project roles. So basically, nothing crazy about this role. When I was walking in and kind of, you know, doing the job with them for like 2 weeks, well, I did 4 weeks technically for field. I like it. The only thing that I dislike about it is I feel like I want to be in the drawings more. Like, they're good at the drawings, but like I like to set up the blueprints with like special links, and I like to read everything. When you're a superintendent or field engineer, you do not have enough time to like link up all the drawings and all that. And they go to a lot of meetings. They're on like 4 or 5 jobs, maybe like 2 to 4 jobs. And they're just busy. So like, that's what I liked about estimating, is having enough time to like set up the job properly, organize things, you know, shocking that I'd be into organization of documents. Where would that have come from? So that's kind of the thing. That's why I think that I would like to try it out maybe more, but for now I'm like, oh, I like being able to have the job set up. So that is kind of the downside for me, but you'll see like lots of mechanical engineers go either into estimating, at least in my department. Well, I do a lot of the hiring for the estimating because I like to track down, like I want mechanical engineers in our estimating group. You'll see them kind of float around in project engineering, maybe less so, maybe like people with construction management degrees stick in this route. And then field engineers will be anywhere from like union workers to like potentially a couple civils. I got their civil degrees, but I haven't seen many like mechanical engineering degrees out in the field. So it's kind of varies like where your degree will take you, but I just kind of wanted to get a glimpse of what that role is. It's very hands-on, boots on the ground. You're wearing like hats and hoodies and shirts, and it's kind of fun. I mean, it just feels, it's fun. You're in a trailer with a bunch of dudes. It's a good atmosphere. I understand why people love that job, and like walking around, you get your exercise for the day. In estimating, you have to work out after. So I'm like, there are some ups and downs, but understanding the scope, being in charge of the schedule, and really being like a champion for the project is really what field engineering and superintendent stuff is like, and just always outside. But I hope this helps, and so you can kind of tell like what you're signing up for when you're like, oh, I want to be a field engineer, maybe I want to be a project engineer. So anyway, link below anything that you have any ideas on field engineers, or maybe they're different where you're from and all that, and I hope this helps you guys. See you next time.